The government is shut down.
The government shutting down.
The U.S. government is now officially shut down.
This building is a ghost town.
Congress failed us.
Congress tried and failed a last-minute attempt to pass a funding plan.
24 pages long, funds the government till November the 21st, at which time you have the same leverage then that you have right now.
Thune did not come once to me and say, is this bill acceptable? What do you want in the bill? Not one discussion. That is not how you negotiate.
Their one main job was for them to pass the budget, and they couldn't even do that.
One of the core responsibilities of Congress is to fund the government, and they are unable to do that.
So how did we get here? What happens next? And who's impacted? In this video, I'm breaking down those questions and more, and by the end of this video, you will know what jobs and government benefits will be affected, and just overall how this shutdown could affect you and your household.
The fiscal year starts from October 1st and runs all the way until September 30th of next year. So every year on September 30th or around this time, there's a question whether or not the government is going to be funded.
So here's how shutdowns are normally avoided.
For the government to avoid a shutdown, you need 60 senators to vote for approving any sort of stopgap or funding bill.
So as you can see, this is the latest results of the budget bill, which failed by, looks like, 13 votes.
The White House Budget Office sending a memo to federal agencies to start executing their plans for an orderly shutdown.
It's likely that we're in for a long government shutdown.
Now, this has happened many times before, even during Trump's first term.
The last shutdown was during President Trump's first term. That shutdown lasted 34 days and was the longest in history.
Now, this is what Trump actually had to say about it leading up to the shutdown.
President Trump made it clear that he doesn't necessarily mind if they reduce the size and scope of the federal workforce, if they reduce the size and scope of the federal government.
Today, the president turning up the pressure, now warning he could slash government programs.
A lot of good can come down from shutdowns. We can get rid of a lot of things that we didn't want. And we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them. Like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like.
He even floated the idea of cutting benefits.
Including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse.
The millions of Americans who will be impacted by the consequences of this shutdown.
This morning, from coast to coast, millions of federal workers are saying, am I essential? Am I not essential? What about our next paycheck?
Millions of Americans will feel the impact of this shutdown. Paychecks will be stopped for more than 2 million federal employees, but essential workers will be expected to continue working with no pay.
For a lot of people, if you're not getting that paycheck, you still have bills to pay, mortgage to pay, rent to pay, buying groceries. I mean,
now, the good news for federal workers is they just got paid last week, so there's some wiggle room here. The next key date to watch is October 10th. That's the next scheduled paycheck for federal workers, and right now, that's not going to happen.
So with the government, they got two classifications, essential and non-essential. So essential means you have to work, right? But you also have to work with no pay because there's no pay given out during a shutdown. They don't have a budget yet. And then the non-essential workers, well, they don't have to work. They're furloughed. That means they laid off. So here's a list of government departments that will be classified as non-essential, which means they will be furloughed. You have the Department of Health and Human Services. Sources are saying roughly 41% of that department will be furloughed. You have the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, which is the CDC. Sources say 64% of that staff will be furloughed. You had a National Institute of Health. Sources say 75% of that department will be furloughed. You had the Department of Defense. Sources are saying it's going to be over 334,000 from that department. The Environmental Protection Agency, 89% expected to be furloughed. The Department of Commerce, Labor, Education, and States, they will also be affected and also furloughed. So those are the departments that are mostly non-essential. Now here's the government positions that are considered essential, which means they will be working without pay. So they will be air traffic controllers, TSA, you have Border Patrol, Customs and Immigration, and ICE. We have the FBI agents, the CIA officers, and intelligence workers, active duty military and armed forces, federal law enforcement, 911, and border security. If you work for the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, you won't be laid off. So that's the majority of the federal departments and occupations that are considered essential or non-essential. So how does this affect you if you're not a federal worker?
Even if you're not a federal government employee and you think it's not going to impact you, by the way, the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimating that nearly 1 million people could be furloughed, costing the government potentially $400 million. Even if you're not in that bucket or you don't know anybody who is a federal employee, you could still be impacted. That is because certain services will just cease. That means infant and child formula food assistance for women, flood insurance. The national parks will have some closures. If you're going to the airport, you have to give yourself more time because those TSA workers will be showing up, but they won't get a paycheck. Other services like social safety net benefit programs could also be delayed. So this has extremely real practical consequences.
Now here's how the shutdown could affect the U.S. economy as a whole.
Some economic analysts estimate a shutdown could cost the economy about $7 billion a week.
That during a shutdown, about $1 billion for the travel industry is lost a week. That's from flights, that's from rail, that's from people not visiting U.S. parks and national monuments, which are closed during a shutdown.
But try not to stress because it's not all doom and gloom. You will still get most of your government services met.
And there's this concern, especially among Americans who are beneficiaries to safety net programs, whether or not they'll still have access to that. The answer is yes. So that's Medicare, that's Medicaid, that's food stamps, Social Security will still be paid out. The real hiccup that we could see there is access through personnel. So if you have to talk to someone who works for the government in order to get access to this, you could see slowdowns there based off of what staffing looks like as it relates to any staffing shakeups under this government shutdown.
Look, Social Security checks still go out. Medicare still continues, right? So for many Americans, you may not feel the impact of this shutdown right away, but if you're having trouble making a phone call to the IRS in a couple weeks or getting an appointment at a Social Security office in a couple weeks, that's when this begins to impact more Americans. Again, day one impacts are usually limited in government shutdowns. Trash isn't going to pile up at a national park because the government's been shut down for a couple hours. But come day 7, day 8, day 9, that's when it becomes much more noticeable.
Hopefully they're able to come to agreement real soon and end this government shutdown because people's livelihoods depend on this check being sent out every month. And I really hope they don't take that lightly. So tell me, what are your thoughts about this shutdown? Was this necessary or avoidable? Let me know in the comments below and let's talk about it. If you got value out this video, show some love and smash the subscribe, like, and bell notification to get the latest HE content. And if you like this video, definitely check out the next video.